experience and training, and you are considered to be competent. Look at me, I am a civil engineer, so you might think I can design buildings and I can supervise construction. I can assure you, I am a big zero in both of them. So today, modern world, and probably inspired by West, where there is not so much focus on degrees, is moving towards a competence-based qualification system rather than, qualification-based system. Competence is defined as knowledge and skills required for a particular job. A demonstration, if you can demonstrate the knowledge and skills for a particular job, then you are competent. And you could acquire that knowledge and skills by any route. It could be education, it could be short-term training, it could be sitting, if I was working in a construction company for 10 years, I might acquire the competence of a civil engineer, even if I'm not a civil engineer. And then you evaluate and certify them. It could be oral evaluation, it could be a written examination, it could be a practical demonstration, it could be an on-the-job observation of a person. How does he perform the job? It's also a modern day concept that competence has to be re-evaluated periodically. It's not a one-time job that today if you are declared competent, next 20 years you will remain competent. There could be reasons why you lose your competence. You may not stay in touch with the latest trends in technology, etc. God forbid there might be a medical reason for not being able to perform the same job again. You may not practice at all for next 15-20 years, like I am there. Having done IIT and civil engineering, I have never practiced, so where is the question of being competent in civil engineering? So there is there is a concept of surveillance and recertification. Every 5 years, every 10 years, that's left to the scheme. And this is very suitable for areas where there is no formal education. If you are an MBBS doctor, you get a degree. As an engineer, you get a degree. But there are a whole lot of areas where there is no formal education. How do you know an electrician is competent? You're just going by word of mouth. How do you know a plumber is competent? You're just going by word of mouth. And this can apply to electrical safety. A whole lot of electrical engineers are there, I know. But how many of us actually are experts in electrical safety? Gopal is having a tough time finding out trainers for electrical safety right now. So we know how difficult it is to get electrical safety experts within electrical domain. Globally, what's happening, we should know in what context we are operating. Use of standards has increased manifold in all areas, in products, processes, systems, and including personnel. I mean, when I joined BIS way back in 1980, I thought standards meant product standards, standards meant manufacturing. But things have changed in the last 44 years. And some of these are compulsory on grounds of health, safety, etc. We are well aware. CA regulations also come on that. Of course, these are services, but still, same grounds apply in services. As you can see, services have some additional grounds like privacy, like public order, but same health, safety, deceptive trade practices, national security, all these environment, all these are grounds for regulation of products as well as services. Once you have defined standards in a voluntary regime or defined regulations, legal requirements, the next step is that you want to measure compliance. For a product, it's easy. You test a product and you can find out whether the product applies to the standard or not. But for processes, for personnel, it gets more complicated. You have to have an audit or an inspection or an evaluation, some method of evaluation. And so there are methods like inspection, testing, certification. These days we are talking of GHG emissions, where the term used is verification. Now, if we have to take leadership, I mean, we talk about taking leadership, we have to adhere to international standards. I have no doubt in my mind that we should stop talking about differential standards, that standards for India is one thing and standard for global market is another. We should be adopting international standards where we can. And in the context of WTO regime, international standards in our sector, the sector that you are dealing with, means ISO standards or IEC standards, in the International Electrotechnical Commission. I'm sure all of you are well aware of those standards. Now, there are two concepts which we should be aware of, as in case of products and services. Some professionals need regulation, which means licensing. You can't practice without a license. A doctor cannot practice without a license. So there are a whole lot of professions. In fact, recently, government also brought in an act for licensing allied healthcare professionals. Like an X-ray technician will be licensed in future, MRI technician will be licensed in future. Right now, there's no licensing. Anybody can be an X-ray technician, anybody can be an MRI technician, but they are going to be licensed in the future. There is a separate commission which has been set up. So usually again the grounds are health and safety. If it's a health related subject, it's a safety related subject, then you need licensing. Even the person who takes your blood sample, should he be licensed or not? Are you sure that he knows how to take a sample? We don't know. Every day we are giving blood sample. We trust that person, but we don't know whether he is competent or not. So licensing is normally used in a regulated sector, licensing of professional. In a voluntary sector, we say certification. So you heard of ISO 9000 certification, I'm sure everybody knows. ISI mark is voluntary in many areas. BIS certification is also voluntary. It could be, sometimes it is notified by law. BIS certification in many areas, especially electrical appliances, electrical accessories, it's notified by law as to be compulsory. Same meaning in professionals. You can have welders certified. You can have, I'm talking of global systems. You can have information security managers certified. You can have food safety supervisors. This is a globally practiced system. So when you do a licensing or certification, either way, if it's a regulated sector, it's a non-regulated sector, you need two things. One, a standard to be complied with, standard or criteria, whatever you call it. And two, you need a method of measurement. A conformity assessment, what we call conformity assessment. For global acceptance, it's necessary that both these are internationally acceptable. Something which we don't realize, and I'll give you an example. If ISO IC standards are available, it's great. If you base your system on ISO IC standards, you are likely to be globally acceptable. And it's best to do that actually. The second part, the demonstration of compliance, we all understand international standard for a product. What is this international, code of practice for electrical safety? We all are aware. But this second part is not understood very well. That even if you comply with international standard, if you don't demonstrate compliance in an internationally acceptable way, you will still not be accepted worldwide. And let me give you an example from my old organization with BIS. All of you know, it's a simple example, I'm sure everybody is aware. It is a hallmarking system of BIS. We all know that gold purity is the same worldwide. If you go to Dubai and buy gold, 22 karat gold means 22 karat gold. 18 karat gold means 18 karat gold. 24 karat gold means 24 karat gold. Isn't it? Everywhere it's the same. Same purity standard. India is also following the same standard. Yet hallmarking system is not acceptable globally. And you might wonder why. Then the standard is same, why should it not be acceptable? Simple reason. The assaying centers that BIS is using today, they are not accredited to an international standard. BIS has its own standard to which it is assessing the assaying center. So the assaying report is not acceptable globally. So that's where the problem is. So that's why I emphasize, please remember two parts. A, the person to be certified, the product to be certified, the process to be certified, that standard has to be international. B, how he is going to be evaluated, that test method has to be international. If you go to electrical products, we expect the test method to be internationally acceptable, isn't it? You can't have your own test method, somebody has his own test method, same product being tested and producing different results. Not possible. So, incidentally for this part, the conformity assessment that we follow in our world, there are international standards. And they are incidentally joint standards of ISO and IC. Because IC also realizes that this is common. It's not electrotechnical sector which needs these standards. These standards are needed. For example, ISO 1725 for laboratories, whether it's an electrical testing laboratory or a food testing laboratory. The standard is same. So here this is called 17,000 series. It's a committee called CASCO in ISO, which produces these standards. And there are a whole lot of standards I have listed here for labs, for inspection agencies, for management system certification, for personal certification, which is my subject today, for validation verification like GHG emissions, for product certification like ISI mark, or process certification like organic certification. So all these 17,000 series standards are available for ensuring that equivalence is there. And how does this equivalence happen? Who supervises this? Do you know? ISO doesn't. Many think, oh, I've got an ISO certification from an agency authorized by ISO. No, sir. ISO is only into standard setting, does not do anything in relation to conformity assessment other than producing standards. So who does? Incidentally, fortunately for us, there are systems available. There are two international bodies. One is called International Accreditation Forum. The other is called International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. Incidentally, both these are merging. Into 2025, there will be a single body. And IAF handles certification and validation and verification. ILAC handles inspection and laboratory. This whole thing put together, they are complete. In most countries, there are single accreditation bodies. like UK or Germany, by law, in Europe by law there is a single national accreditation body. But in India we did not say so. So NABCB is there, where I was CEO for many years, which is a member of this system. And in laboratory we have more than one now. NABL was there earlier, now two more private bodies have come, QAI and FDS, they are members. And they are being evaluated. So IAF, ILAC evaluate regional bodies, there are regional bodies. Regional bodies evaluate the accreditation bodies. Accreditation bodies evaluate the certification, inspection bodies and labs. So the whole system is under evaluation. So in our word, in a light-hearted manner, we say that in God we trust, rest all have to show evidence. So even as CEO NABC, I had to get evaluated. CEO NABC was not enough for me to say that I am competent. So just pictorially, I am showing you this picture. On top are the two international bodies, which will become one shortly, IAF and ILAC. Below that, I have shown three regional bodies. There are six regional bodies actually. So they are being evaluated. IAF evaluates. I am an IAF evaluator today, evaluating these regional bodies. The regional bodies evaluate the individual accreditation bodies. There is a standard for us, ISO 17011, ISO IC. And I have been a regional evaluator as well. The accreditation body evaluates the what are called conformity bodies, the labs, the inspection bodies, the certification bodies of various kinds. Certification bodies for personal, process, product, management system. And down below is either the item or the organization under evaluation. Now this is crucial. If you look at this, if you have an ISO 9001 certificate for your organization coming from a certification body which is complying with ISO 17021, coming from accredited by an accreditation body which is complying with 17011, which has been evaluated by the regional body, which in turn has been evaluated by the international body, then your ISO 9001 certificates become globally acceptable. So today, if you have an ISO 9001 certificate with the accreditation body logo, possibly with an IAF logo, if you present it anywhere in the world, mostly it will be accepted. This is how it operates. Now translate that into product. It's important to understand. If the product standard is common, for example, say electrical safety of irons, there is a common international standard, IC standard. So if I am tested, I test the electric iron to that standard. In a lab which is accredited as per 1725 by an accreditation body which is following 70011, which is member of APAC, the regional body, which is evaluated by IAF or ILAC in this case, then that product becomes acceptable across the globe. And this is how, if you go to Europe, you find the products move from one country to another, or you go to ASEAN countries, the products move from one country to another. Now apply this to professionals. Now if the standard for